I got invited to cast the first ever Shadowverse Evolve English Edition World Finals in Tokyo. The ultimate test to find the very best Shadowverse Evolve players in the world. Thank you to Shadowverse Evolve for flying me out and also for sponsoring this video. Here's how it went down. I'm one of the Shadowverse Evolve English Edition ambassadors, but I've never commentated a physical TCG event in my life. I have 7 years of experience casting for digital Shadowverse, but I was never behind the desk for a real-life card game event before. So when I got the offer to do so for Shadowverse Evolve, and at the World Finals no less, I jumped at the chance. Not gonna lie, I was more than a little nervous since it was something I've never done, so as my plane landed in Hong Kong for my layover, I decided to take some notes. The World Invitational 2023 World Finals would be held in the Uma Musume format, meaning that 3 sets were tournament legal. Booster Set 1, Advent of Genesis, Booster Set 2, Reign of Bahamut, and the Uma Musume Pretty Derby collaboration set. The Japanese edition is about a year ahead, and during their meta at this time, the Uma Musume deck was definitely one of the most prevalent meta threats. But for the English edition, they pre-restricted 2 of their most important cards, Ignideus and Trial Initiation. This makes the deck way less consistent and would hopefully open up the meta. From what we saw in the previous regional tournaments as well as the last chance qualifiers, this held mostly true. And while Uma Musume was still a top-tier threat, it was one of many alongside Discard Dragon, Mid-Range Sword, and more recently an uptick in mid-range Forest as well. I personally thought that Forest could take the whole thing due to people being less prepared for it and also its own versatility. During my 4-hour layover, I took as many notes as I could regarding all the key cards and matchup spreads for these decks, as well as taking a note of a few rogue decks that could pop up like Control Haven and Aggro Abyss. I even consulted a few competitive players on their thoughts too, but I still felt like I needed more insight as my flight to Tokyo came in. I arrived in Tokyo in the afternoon, and after finding my way to my first hotel in Shibuya, I passed out. But Igni, you might ask. Worlds is in Akihabara, which is half an hour away by train. Why did you go to Shibuya? Well, my very well-informed viewer, I went to Shibuya because the next day I was scheduled to film some fight videos with Chris Different Fight, my fellow Shadowverse Evolve English Edition ambassador, who would also be at the venue, albeit casting for a different game. We got a sneak peek at Booster Set 3, Flame of Levitine, which would be releasing the day after this, and we dueled each other with some brews we built using the new cards. I'll link those videos below when they come out. It was a pleasure to meet with Chris in person yet again, and we also talked shop regarding what we were expecting to show up at the World Finals. Chris agreed with my take that Forest would be the dark horse to watch out for, but we weren't sure about how likely it was to show up, considering it was still relatively new. Still, I felt nervous. I didn't feel underprepared, per se, but I couldn't help the anxiety since it's a type of event that I'd never done before. But the reassurance of a veteran like Chris went a long ways in helping me out. After our shoot, we both made our way to the hotel in Akihabara, and that night, a bunch of us went to a massive dinner. Shout out to Chris once again, who organized this whole get-together. I woke up the next day with a clear mission. Meet my co-caster. Kel, or Red Zone Rogue, TCG content creator and commentator, arrived from America the night before. And not only would this be our first time working together, it would be our first time meeting, period. The plan was to link up, get to know each other, show him around the area. We only got a little lost, which I count as a success, and we hit it off straight away. It was also his first time in Japan, so we had a good time walking about Akiba and window shopping at all the card stores around. After a while though, we headed to the UDX venue for rehearsals. Worlds is just 1 day away at this point. During this time, a welcome meeting was held for all the players, and it was awesome getting to meet with so many passionate people. It honestly ignited my love for this game fiercely anew. Just being in the same room as hundreds of people who all care about the same community as you is electric. I handed out as many of my Ambassador Evolve points as possible, hoping someone would actually use it on the day of the competition. After finishing up, Kel and I found ourselves some late dinner, talked about Worlds, and headed back to get as much sleep as possible before the big day. I'm here with Red Zone Rogue. Hello, sir. Hello. Hope you enjoy your meal. It's gonna be embarrassing because I've been talking this for so long to Kel, and if he doesn't like it, how mortifying would that be?
I'm sure it'll be good. It smells really good.
It is the night before World Finals. We just got done with rehearsals. So tomorrow we get to watch some beautiful competition, announce some cool stuff as well. I just hope the decks go up soon so we can just spend all night studying them, basically.
Nothing like a good night of studying, right?
Just cramming.
Right.
Giving you nostalgic vibes.
like flashbacks, nightmares.
Before we split ways though, Cal gave me the scoop on a deck he found really interesting. He actually attended the LCQ in Los Angeles, which took place really close to Worlds. And at that event, there was a player who brought a completely unknown Rose Queen combo Forest build and took it to 3rd place. Me being a Forest believer was quick to buy into the hype, but I wouldn't know how relevant this would end up being until way later. It is 9 p.m. at night. I am at the hotel now and I am going to go to bed. I want to make sure that I'm as refreshed and cognizant as possible for tomorrow's cast. It's my first ever physical TCG cast. Been doing digital this entire time up till this point, so let's get it right. I feel pretty prepared, but some part of me, maybe it's just because it's my first time casting physical TCG, some part of me is like, but what if they play something I don't know? A little bit of me is like, let's stay up and cram even more.
It's the morning of the day, and I don't want to talk too loudly because there's a lot of other guests here. There's my hotel breakfast, 6:30 a.m., trying to keep myself fueled up. And after this, taking notes for the next 3 hours.
Now that I had the meta down pat, I needed to lock in on the stories, the players themselves. Of course, I knew their names and some of their accomplishments from keeping up with the regionals and the last chance qualifiers, but I wanted to have it all on file for quick reference during the day itself. Cal linked up with me and we went to the venue to get started. This was it. The first ever English Edition World Champion will be crowned at the end of the day. During the event itself, I obviously couldn't do much vlogging, given the fact that I was casting, so let's break it down now. If you want to see the full games rather than this quick summary, I highly recommend that you do. Check out the tournament VOD linked below. So the tournament is a best of 1, 7 rounds of Swiss into a top 8 single elimination. We streamed 1 game per round, and here's how it went down. To no one's surprise, the most represented decks in the tournament were Uma Musume, Dragon, and Sword. Forest was a slightly distant 4th, with Haven being an even further 5th, which is what was expected. Despite the pre-restrictions, Uma Musume is still a very powerful deck using the Daiwa Vodka combo on turn 5 and onwards, while Dragon had the ability to ramp and do consistent burn with Dracomancer's Rights. And Sword had the Leonidas Resolve to buff your Storm Followers game plan. While I personally rated Forest very highly, it was a relatively new variable in the meta, and with stakes as high as the World Finals, makes sense why many wouldn't want to stake their run on it, which is what Chris and I discussed a few days ago. In the first round, we saw something completely unexpected. Shiny Cardboard, who got second at the Houston LCQ, was bringing mid-range Forest against Illinois regional champion Spencer Freeman's Spellchain Rune. I was of course pleasantly surprised to see Forest so early, but I was even more caught off guard by Spencer's insane deck. It didn't run Dimension Shift at all, which you might expect as a finisher for Spellchain, but instead focused solely on burn and storm damage using Mithril Golem and Rune Blade Summoner. These are both cards found at full copies within the Runecraft starter deck, and to see it on the world stage was both shocking and inspiring. Even more so when it actually won. In round 2, we saw Enrique's Aggro Abyss go up against Luke Bombforth's Discard Dragon, and it got insanely close. Dragon is much higher rated than Abyss by most competitive players, but Abyss got Dragon down to just 1 defense. But Luke showed off why he was the UK regional champion, and just like how he won his regional with Discard Dragon, he clutched it in the end. On to round 3, I saw a very familiar face. Ipang, the regional champion for Indonesia, and someone who I actually fought against on this channel. Spoiler alert, I got bodied. And after that experience, I've rated Ipang's skills incredibly highly. He qualified for Worlds using Earthright Rune, but switched it up and brought mid-range Forest to Worlds, and I felt vindicated for my belief in the deck. Using an out-of-left-field tech of Tazuna Hayakawa Trace and Reception, which is in the Ready Set Uma Musume crossover starter deck, he's able to resurrect Silent Suzuka from the cemetery and take the game over Melty's Uma Musume deck. Again, seeing starter deck cards do so well is always welcome. In round 4, Juan Cena took Leonidas Sword, the same deck he played to win Houston Regionals, against 3rd at Illinois Regionals K-Strider's Uma Musume. And this time we got to see Uma Musume absolutely pop off and show us why it's still a meta threat despite the pre-restrictions. With the Daiwa Vodka Wombo combo, it won against the Houston Regional Champion. Now round 5, we didn't cast because I am but a mere mortal and required sustenance to continue operating, so while us casters got some grub, they played on, not wanting to delay the players. In round 6, the penultimate round of Swiss, I saw another familiar face, Bima from Team Sonar 5, who you might know as a strong competitive player in digital Shadowverse esports. Turns out he's pretty good at Shadowverse Evolve 2, and by pretty good I mean he qualified to Worlds by getting 3rd place at Sydney Regionals. He was playing Uma Musume in a mirror match against Symphonus, who won the Austria Regionals. Despite not getting the Daiwa Vodka combo for a while, he was able to navigate the game into a victory. And he did it using my evolution point. points. Good luck charm confirmed. Finally, in the final round of Swiss, we saw an intense match. Ryan K, who got second at Houston Regionals with Haven, was back at it again with an off-meta Kaguya Haven list to try and control the game into an inevitable victory. Meanwhile, third at the Mexico Last Chance qualifiers, Gerardo Arenas brought Discard Dragon with some unusual top-end picks, like Imperial Dragoon. It was that very pick that won him the game, with some insane burn damage over the top with Dracomancer's right to ping the opponent down. These players were both amazing, and thankfully they both made it into top 8. So going into top 8, here was the spread. 4 Uma Musume decks, 2 dragons, 1 forest, and 1 haven. The lack of sword was absolutely shocking, as it was widely considered to be one of the best decks in the format at the time. Immediately, some decks popped out at me. Of course, we saw Gerardo's Discard and Ryan's Haven, but Justin Mao's Uma Musume deck was a particularly unique variant using self-mill cards like Seeking the Pearl to activate 7 more centimeters faster. Locking in on the forest, Kel confirmed it to me. This was the very same player he talked to me about at our late night dinner, Bellaboo, with the extremely personalized Rose Queen Forest deck. The fact that she made it to top 8 when all the other mid-range forest players couldn't was incredible, and I got sucked into the hype Kel was selling me more and more. In the top 8 match, we got to see it in action. Bellaboo was up against Gerardo, who we just saw in the last round of Swiss, and she was able to take it by generating insane amounts of burn using Arya and Rose Queen. Keep in mind that Arya is at 3 copies in the forest starter deck, and she just took it to top 4 in the world. Going to the other side of the bracket, we see Daniel Yanto, who came 3rd at Jakarta Regionals up against Ryan K's Haven. I actually met with Daniel when I went to the Jakarta Regionals as well, so I knew his skill was no joke. In the end, he was able to pilot a pretty typical Discard Dragon list into an extraordinary victory. At Grand Finals, it was Daniel versus Bellaboo, and I could not have asked for a better matchup in terms of story. On one side, a fellow Indonesian player who I've cheered on before, and on the other, the rogue deck piloted by a player that Kel has cheered on this whole time. The match was absolutely insane, and I highly encourage you to go watch the VOD. But the most amazing play to me was when Daniel board-locked Bellaboo, which would have led to an Oguri Cap victory the turn after if Bellaboo doesn't draw her only out of Nature's Guidance to bounce a follower. And then she did. In the end though, Daniel was able to maneuver the game into a victory, and we crowned our first ever world champion for Shadowverse Evolve English Edition. Meanwhile, Justin Mao took the 3rd place game. So the top 3 decks were Discard Dragon, Rose Queen Forest, and Self-Mill Uma Musume. This whole event taught me I still have so much to learn. After we wrapped, I went to talk to our new world champion. All right, we just got done with the Shadowverse World Finals, and here I am with the champion.
Hi guys.
The world. Show me. That is the promo Alice that you get for winning the World Championship. Yeah. Congratulations,
man. Sure, man.
I want to ask you a question, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what made you bring Dragon into the finals?
Actually, I want to bring Uma at the first.
Right.
But I've been practicing with that deck like for a month, and it's performed well.
Yeah.
But in the last minute, I have a feeling that like, I don't think I can win with this deck, and so my heart is telling me to bring the dragon. Since the dragon, I've been using the dragon since the first expansions.
Right.
Until now, so yeah, I go with it.
Most confident with it. And it
Yes.
just spoke to you, basically.
Yeah, yes.
And it worked, man.
It's fun.
If you guys didn't see it, go watch the VOD.
Yeah.
The protagonist energy coming from this guy is
my God.
crazy.
Yeah.
Dude, once again, congratulations.
Sure.
World champion Daniel Yanto. Let's go, bro. This trip was an amazing experience. And even after the tournament, I stuck around in Japan for a few days to meet people and do fun things. From karaoke with some of the players, to visiting card shops around Tokyo, and stopping by and hanging out with the homies from the other Bushi Road games. All in all, I could not have asked for a better first time casting at TCG, and the only thing I want now is to do it much, much more.